Welcome to Syntax. Today we've got the State of JS, the State of JavaScript. This is a survey that goes out every single year, and what we like to do is kind of go through it and get an idea of where is the industry at. It's always interesting to take a look at what are people actually using, what are people building with, what is sort of coming up on the horizon. It gives you a nice little look on into it. So we're going to check it out. This is the State of JS survey at stateofjs.com. Real quick, before we get into it, let's talk about Sentry at sentry.io/syntax. Sentry is going to help you figure out errors on your website, any performance slowdowns, and help you fix issues on that. So if you got a slow website, whether that's something on the client side, whether that's a database query that is abnormally slow, sometimes, this database query is being fine, but all of a sudden, boom, this is taking 3 seconds to actually run. Might be something going on there. Session replay, really cool, which gives you a video-like replay of what the user was doing to hit a specific bug, as well as code coverage. It gives you some stats on, are your tests covering all of your code? Check it out, sentry.io/syntax. All right, let's take a look at State of JS. First thing we have here on the left is libraries.
Actually, sorry, Wes.
Yep.
Before we get into the actual State of JS, can I tell you about the State of JavaScript Twitter fantasy football?
No. Yes, tell me.
Yes, I know you don't care about fantasy football or football in general, but let me tell you.
Last thing I would like to hear about. I would rather play a board game.
I don't think the audience cares either, but I just want to say, for record here, I am terrible at fantasy football. I lose every time, and I lose specifically because I only pick Detroit Lions. Well, let me tell you, I joined a fantasy football league with like Ken Wheeler, Typecraft, Ian Landsman, Adam from Terminal, a bunch of JavaScript dudes, and I won. I won the whole thing. I won the championship. I won the playoffs. I never get anything other than last place in fantasy football, and I just want to take this second to say I won the whole dang thing. So that is the state of JavaScript fantasy football for anybody who cares. And I just want to say, the Lions propelled me to an epic victory overall. And I'm just going to take that minute to gloat for any of the folks in the league who are listening to this episode. So thank you. All right, let's get into the actual stuff here.
All right, let's start off with the features, specifically syntax features. Which of these syntax features have you used? 85% of people using nullish coalescing. And nullish coalescing is really cool. If you haven't used it before, is if you have a variable that is possibly null or undefined, you can use the double question mark to sort of provide a fallback. That is better than using a ternary, I can never say it, ternary, which will detect if something is falsy. And the difference between null and undefined and falsy values is that 0, empty string, several others are also falsy, which is often not what you want. So nullish coalescing, it seems like almost everybody's using it, which is really cool.
Yeah. I like nullish coalescing. I like to use it. I do find myself oftentimes is doing the double ampersand instead, but I do use nullish coalescing. Dynamic imports, surprisingly, a lot of people using dynamic imports, which I don't find myself using that much for some reason, even though I thought that I would before dynamic imports are a thing, where import is a way to do a non-static import, and in fact, you're doing the import somewhere within the JavaScript, not at the top of the file, and you're not as a promise to import that code.
I'm redoing my website right now, and I have to use dynamic imports to import the markdown for each of the files. And the reason I need to do that is because I'm using Next.js, and I need like a listing of all the blog posts, like initially, right? So what I do is I run a big loop, and I just run through and import every single file in there. And it's a pain. Dynamic imports are really tricky because, partially because, when you deploy something to a serverless environment, by the import tree, they will figure out which pieces are needed, and they'll try to take the rest out and tree shake it. But with dynamic import, they have to try to figure out, you're going to need this not at build time, but on demand. So they have to figure out which parts you need. And if the part of your dynamic import is like a variable, then it gets a little bit tricky, and it's like Webpack hell all the way down. So try to avoid dynamic imports if you can. It's not always totally possible because you don't know those things. Or the thing is much larger and you don't want to have to import it until you need it.
Number 3 on here is private fields and classes. This is a class-based thing. You know what? Since I've started using classes more often, I'm using private fields. I'm using this. So I'm on here as somebody who's added classes to their skill base, I guess. I don't know. I use classes
You're a
now.
classy guy, Scott.
I'm classy. I got classy. And I like my private properties. So I use this feature, which I wouldn't have said last year. New year, new me, right?
Logical assignment. Oh, I don't know that I've used this before.
Let me tell you, I had the same reaction.
Pipe equals? So logical assignment is if something is a falsy, which we just talked about, right? So their example is if a variable title is empty, then you can do pipe equals, and that will set the default to 10.
That's interesting.
I have never seen that. Man, I feel like I'm pretty dialed on this stuff too.
Same, yeah.
Wow. What's the browser support for that? Here, I guess I can open it here. Can I use logical assignment?
Full support, baby. 95%.
It's been in every browser for a long time. Wow. I'm very surprised I had never heard about. That's why I love going through these things, is because even folks like us whose job it is to stay on top of the stuff, there's things you never come around. Hashbang grammar, 20% of people using it. This is the ability to provide a path to a specific JavaScript interpreter. So like if you were to run like a JavaScript file from the command line, you can, instead of saying node run.ts, you can just put the environment up at the top. I don't know. That's more for like, every now and then I've used that, but that's more for like C and bash scripts.
Yep. And the next one here, error.cause, which allows you to specify the origin of the cause of the error. And I didn't use this either. I'm interested in this, but I have not used this. Their example is when they're throwing a new error inside of a catch, they're saying that the cause is of the initial error. So that way it's not like you're throwing an entirely, you are throwing a new error, but you're saying it originates from this other error, which I think is interesting. Yeah.
I definitely need that, because half the time, like you get a stack trace, and the stack trace is showing you where the error was logged, and it's like, no, I want to know where the error was initially thrown. I know you caught it, so you could provide some nice use case for that, but I'm sure the folks at Sentry are really happy with this one.
Yeah, well, since we started doing async await and try catching everything, it's like it feels more necessary.
String features, replace all. That's a killer one, right? Match all. That's a killer one as well. And match indices. This will store the start and end positions of each matched capture group.
I have not used this, but that sounds useful. That sounds useful to me.
What is? Oh yeah. I've used this, where you can get the pieces of the matched array.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
Likewise, array features, we have, you know what, it's so funny, we see these bars go all the way to the right, and you think, oh, a lot of people must use this, but it's only 40% of people who have responded actually use this, array.toSorted. I have not used toSorted.
Oh, man.
I know you've talked about it before. It's basically the same as sort without mutating the original array. I pretty much always just use sort, but toSorted seems like much more up my alley, considering most of the array methods I use are, non-destructive.
So I was working on my website, and I had a array of blog posts, and every time I saved the file, it would reverse the blog posts. I was like, what the hell is going on? And it's because I was taking the array and sorting it based on whatever we had, but it would just every single time it was actually mutating the original array. So anytime you do something that needs to be deterministic, it should be like what's called like a pure function, meaning that like you always get the same result every single time. So .toSorted is, I would go as far to say, just use .toSorted by default, because you shouldn't be mutating your original data unless you explicitly want to. So use all of the immutable methods on an array. And so another example is splice. Splice will modify the original array, whereas slice will not. So now we have .toSplice, which is number 4 at only 20% of people using it.
Cool. Yeah, you know what? I never think about these. For some reason, I just always use because it's like you have so much, mental, I don't know, it's the way I've always done it, right?
Yeah, you just know.
Sort and splice. It's like, well, now I got to remember these other ones even exist. But it makes sense. Definitely.
Number 2 is find last. This will allow you to search an array beginning at the end. So previously you would first reverse the array and then find it. So that's really handy. To reverse, we'll reverse it. Array.width will... I did a video on this, and now I'm blanking on what it is. Returns a new array with the element at a given index. Oh, so it's like
value. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can. How is that different than?
You know what? Here's what I would do in the same situation. I would create a new array first, and then I would then replace the item at that index with the classic style. And I don't know that I didn't know this existed. So, yeah. What makes it better? Is it a shorthand? It's probably just a shorthand, but still.
No, it's not. It's the mutating versus splicing. So here, let me open up my...
Sure. But what I would do, like I said, is I would create a new array.
Oh, yeah. I see what you mean. Here, let's do a quick example right here. So const people is equal to... Hey, look at this. I already got one in my my dev tools here. So we have Scott, we have Wes, and we have Snickers... And we have Sunny. That's what I always go for these, right?
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
So we have people.width 2 and 3. That gives you 2, 3, and what?
It's swapping the second.
This is a replacement, not a slice. Okay, so that's really handy if you want to replace an item of an array versus having to like Scott just said, take a copy and replace that item, or spread everything before, put the one in you want, and spread it after. Man, I can't believe I literally have a video on this, and I was like blanking on what that was for. That's good.
Hey,
Only
there's
13%.
Too many features. We're getting too much stuff. It's all great. Yeah.
And array.from async is similar to array.from, but for async iterators. That's really handy. If you've ever tried to take an array that is a generator and you just like, I don't care about this next done thing. I just want an array of the actual values. From async is going to be handy for that.
Async features. Number 4 on this list with only 13 people responding have using it, which is 0.1%, is top level await. No, I'm surprised by that. I've used top level await.
13 people?
13 people.
Probably was written in.
Yeah, maybe. I use top level await this year. It's not super well supported. It's kind of obnoxious sometimes. It causes Safari to lose its mind. I will tell you, there is a long-standing bug about Safari and top level await, and it's just like, pretty much makes using it not so much fun in certain situations. So, yeah, top level await. Yeah, it does say it's supported, but hey, man, I couldn't get it to work no matter what I did.
Really?
With Safari.
Oh, man.
Safari specifically, there's an open issue about it on GitHub, and there's not a whole lot you can do.
The funny thing about a lot of this stuff is people will be like, I've been using it for forever, and people don't realize that the bundler is actually doing a lot of the heavy lifting under the hood. Like I see this with Next.js users all the time. People are like, I've been using ESM for 100 years, and I can use all these features. And Next.js is still CommonJS. Next.js is compiles everything to CommonJS, and you think it looks like you're using ESM, but you're actually not.
What I would like is top level await support in Svelte for like async components. That would be nice. That's something that I would like. But yeah, I think that's a feature that people will start to use.
Totally.
It makes modules really nice to await things without having to create a function, then run that function. So yeah, top level await feature that I would like to see better supported and better used throughout just the general landscape. There's a lot of new features for sets, which I can't say that I've used any of these this year. Set.union, set.intersection, set.difference. I don't think I've used a ton of sets this year, but CJ released a video about you should be using sets and maps, and it's a really good video. So I need to watch it 3 or 4 more times before I reach for sets every time, and we've talked about them enough on this show. But it's one of those things where my brain just doesn't go there enough, Yeah. I don't know about you. Yeah.
Stop yourself. Next time you make an array, stop yourself. Make a set instead, because a set is like an array. However, it has a bunch of really nice features around it, right? They can dedupe themselves. And now there is this whole swath of almost like Lodash type methods for checking if data is similar to another piece of data, and seeing if things are inside of each other. You might not be working on these types of apps, but anyone who's doing like data heavy stuff, you've got lots of arrays of either numbers or comments or things like that, or sort of data visualization. These things are a massive, massive improvement. Even the symmetric difference. Have you ever had two arrays of data and you needed to figure out what items are in both of them and which items are not in these ones, or you have like a whole list of possible values, and then you have your actual values, and you say, okay, which ones are not in this array? It's kind of annoying because you have to like take the first array and filter it down for all the items that are not in it, and you have these sort of nested finds.
That makes a lot of sense.
Makes it a million times. Yeah.
I have a fun thing we want to do here for the browser API section. The browser API section, beyond the amount of percentages of people that have used these things, let's go from the top to the bottom, and we'll each say if we've used these in 2024. So Did you use WebSockets in 2024?
I sure did.
Yes.
I hooked it up to my receipt printer.
Exactly. Progressive web apps. I'm raising my hand. I used
Absolutely,
them.
Yes.
Geolocation. I did use geolocation. All right.
I believe so. What's wild is I went back to some of my old demos where I did geolocation, and I built like a speedometer with it. And like that was 15 years ago that I built that. Like it's been in the browser for a long time.
Jeez. And not that many people. I mean, it's one of those things, when you need it, but you don't always need it. Web animations, Wappy. I use Wappy. I put it in some of my demos. Yeah. I'm also the
I
one.
don't think I did.
Wappy.
I just used what's the new CSS?
Oh, view transitions.
View transitions API. That's not considered web animations, is it?
It's not. No.
Okay.
The web animations API is like a JavaScript where you can specify a to and from, and it interpolates values for you. It's great. It's really nice. I use it actually to animate accordions with details. I've used it to animate dialogue elements, all kinds of stuff with a library. WebGL. I've used WebGL, but not directly. I've used a library that used WebGL for me.
Yes. Yeah, so I used it in a couple talks. I had a couple nice little kind of animations while I was doing the talk. And what else did I use on? Oh, I built a 3D visualizer for, hold on, depth detection West Boss.
Oh, you did? AI depth detection. Oh, yeah, that was the coolest. Man.
I built this depth thing. So this is an AI model with Transformers.js, and you feed it a JPEG, and what it does is it gives you out the other end a map where the black pixels are the furthest away and the white pixels are the closest to you, and then you can feed that
this image
map or mesh. I forget what the word is for it, but here's basically the video of what I'm doing map. Here. It's a depth map, yeah. And then I pipe that into 3JS, and that's how you can visualize the depth of things, it was very good. Like even like the basketball behind me on the shelf, it knew that it was slightly bigger. And like if I can do that in the browser with JavaScript, like imagine what these like self-driving cars have that they're using video for that.
Okay, page visibility, did not use that. If the page is open, I believe it's
if you've tabbed away or you've minimized something, you can detect when somebody has done that. So I did not use that.
WASM. We used WASM on the syntax side. I used it for text recognition. So used WASM this year.
Heavily, yes.
I did not use WebRTC this year, even though I have in the past.
I don't believe I did either. I was when like the video stuff came out, I was into it. And then the web torrent was also built on WebRTC.
Yeah.
But I think that was it.
Web authentication, did not use.
I was a user of it. I did not code anything with it, but that's the web authentication API is what passkeys are built on. And we had Anna Publitz on episode 710
Awesome
to talk
episode.
about passkeys and the actual tech behind it.
Temporal. I use Temporal. It's the new date
Yes.
API. It's wonderful.
Very excited.
It's very exciting, which is funny. I forget who somebody was posting on Twitter being like, this is the thing that people are excited about. I'm like, yeah, I'm very excited about it. I've read a lot of date stuff and I don't want to write dates anymore.
Like once temporal hits, it's going to be a while before people really understand the benefit. I think it's going to be similar to like a CSS grid. People are not going to understand that this is such a killer feature that the browser has. Like I still get comments every single day on some of my videos about CSS grid being like, so it's tables? So we had table. I'm like, no, we've been able to do this 100 years for table. No, you don't understand the benefit of it. And I think temporal is going to have the same thing where other languages don't have this amazing data API that we're going to be able to use. So I'm excited for it.
Broadcast channel API. What is that? I have not used that.
Broadcast channel allows you to message between multiple tabs or multiple windows of an application.
You used this, didn't you?
I actually didn't. So I have a YouTube video where I had like multiple windows open and I had my video streaming in and you could move the window anywhere you wanted and it would draw lines between the windows. And everybody's like, you're using broadcast channel API. And you know what I was using? Local storage.
Oh, I thought you were using broadcast. Yeah.
Because local storage is shared between tabs, right?
Yeah.
All right. No, I haven't.
That's fun. The web speech API. I did use this. I've used this a couple times. It's cool. There's there's voices you can pick from. You can get it to synthesize speech for you. It's cool.
The web speech API, it's almost one of those things where it was amazing when it first came out, but now with like 11 labs and whatever, it's like, oh, this is actually not very good anymore because
still cool.
I have a video where I had Ricky from Trailer Park Boys insulting me.
I had an app where a robot voice goes 30 seconds, and that's pretty cool to me. Yes. I can just talk to me.
And you don't need internet connection for that. It just works.
I don't need Snoop Dogg to tell me that I have 30 seconds left. I can have a robot voice do it. The Gamepad API, which allows you to connect video game controllers, have not used, but hey, that seems like something fun to play around with at least. The WebXR device API also did not use, but I should. I'm a big VR person, so I could see myself using the WebXR API to do something fun. And it's one of those things that's always on my list like, yeah, I should give this a try. I haven't done it.
All right, let's move into the library tiers list. This is kind of interesting. So the S tier, what does S tier even mean? It's so funny that like we all just know this. Is this a meme or is this an actual like data science thing?
I'll tell you what. It's from video games. It's from specifically Japanese video games. It's like special, super. It is funny because I don't remember. It's like if it was like RPGs or something, where you would get items being graded on and you'd have S as being the best. But it does originate from video games where S was the highest rank. Yeah.
So we got V-test. Vite and V-test are always just dominating these things.
I have an official answer here. S stands for shu, which in Japanese means excellent. So that's where it comes from.
All right. So S tier, we got V-test, Playwright, Astro, PNPM, ESBuild, Testing Library, and SvelteKit coming in. Cool. Absolutely, everybody loving it.
I love all that stuff, except for maybe, I don't know. I like all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at it. I'm a big fan of everything. Like out of this list, I'm probably biggest on. I use Playwright quite a bit this year. Obviously, Vite I use quite a bit. PNPM I've been on for a while. ESBuild under the hood. It's obviously SvelteKit we're big fans of.
Yeah, big fans. The A tier, we got Mock Service Worker, which I used in the past before, which allows you to as it says, it allows you to mock requests with a service worker, so that way it doesn't actually hit a server. It's great for testing. That's the context in which I've used it before. Svelte, Vue.js, SWC, which is a bundler, SWC, or no, oh, stale, no, I you know, there's SWC, SWV, like all these things. I don't even know anymore with the
SWC is the bundler, speedy web compiler. Yeah, SWC is the Rust-based, like, I guess, like bundler or parser, and it's used by Next, Parcel, Dino. I'm assuming this is used in TurboPack. I'm assuming that that's what this is under the hood. It's kind of similar to, or Vue uses ESBuild and Rollup, and Parcel and Dino use SWC.
I'm more of a fan of SWV for people out there who like 90s R&B.
B tier. Let's pick a couple of our favorites from the B tier.
Turbo Repo. Surprised that it's in B tier. You know what? I resisted using Turbo Repo because I just felt like I didn't need it. Like, what is this doing for me? And then I used it. I'm like, oh wait, this actually solves all of my annoyances with mono repos and orchestrating build commands and dev commands and stuff. So, yes.
I think that stuff's hard regardless. No matter how good the tools are, some of these mono repo stuff is tricky, and tricky to get set up. So it's probably why it's in B tier, because it's a fantastic piece of equipment. TurboPack also in there. So I've been moving my site to Next.js, and I've gone back and forth from the Webpack to TurboPack several times, and it is stable now, but there's still a whole bunch of gotchas that I've hit along the way.
Electron, surprisingly, in here, you only hear people talk negatively about Electron. Every time I've used it, it's been more than fine. It's one of those libraries that people complain about, but at the same regard, it's super handy and useful. So, little surprised that Sentiment put it in B.
The benefit of being able to write desktop apps in JavaScript, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, like freaking VS Code, Discord, all of these things are Electron-based, is amazing. Obviously, the downside to that is there's a huge node bundle that comes along with it, right? These Electron apps can be very large and can be memory hungry, but I think as these processors get faster, like I know I have a very fast computer, but it's not really an issue as these computers get so much faster, and as the processors and as you get more memory on your devices.
Speaking of, when are you going to upgrade again?
I don't know, man. Like my M1 is like really fast. I'm kind of tempted to do it because of some of the video editing speed stuff.
Chris Coyer had a really convincing blog post the other day why he upgraded. It was just that, like, his M1 still rules, but the video stuff was enough to make him go there. I think I will hold out for one more iteration, or I'll hold out until they get rid of the notch. The first one without the notch, will buy. Unless it's next year, then I'll buy it.
Yeah, or they put a webcam in the middle of the screen or something like that. Yeah. I think, like, it's crazy to say that, like, if you're just a developer and you're not doing video.
Oh, yeah.
Like, maybe the M1, which is 3 years old now, is
cooked.
It's more awesome. Than enough for
the battery's
for what
great
most people
still.
Need.
It's super powerful. The fans never come on. It's a great laptop. But in the same regard, if I'm doing like some crazy masking stuff inside of DaVinci Resolve, it grinds to a halt. And I might like something that does not do that.
Isn't that cool how as technology gets better, at a certain point, I guess, we're happy with it. It's good enough. But now we're like, oh, what else can we do with it? Like what video stuff that was never possible before without a 8-hour render can we now do,
Yeah, I know. I remember leaving my computer overnight just to have like a preview render and be like, all right, it actually looks bad. Let me redo it and wait another 8 hours. C tier, Angular. I think Angular gets a bad rap. I think it's cool. I don't use it though, so maybe C tier is fine.
Angular always gets destroyed in these things, and it's just I think it's because of most people taking this it's a pretty heavy modern React audience. Yeah. And a lot of those people used Angular 10 years ago, and they're still bitter.
Or they didn't use it at all and just heard somebody say, oh, Angular bad,
Yeah.
React good. And that's why,
The lowest one, Cordova. I don't know a lot of people even use Cordova anymore.
Yeah.
Gatsby, kind of sad to see that go, but I think it's funny to see Astro one of the highest and Gatsby one of the lowest. And I wonder if they are intentionally both purple because Astro's the spiritual successor to Gatsby.
It does feel like Gatsby could have become Astro, It does feel like that. Yeah. Lerna, not surprising that it's this low. I don't like Lerna. Workspaces
Like
kind of solved all those problems, plus Turbo Repo, whatever. Yeah. So let's get into front-end frameworks over time and whether or not people like them, are using them. There's different categories on this for usage, awareness, interest, retention, and positivity. I think positivity is an interesting one all the time where, how people are feeling about it. It's interesting that React has been over time since 2016 up until 2023, React was still the most positive, and then Svelte passed it in 2023. And then in 2024, Svelte and Vue passed it in terms of positivity. So sentiment of React, an 84% positivity in 2016, down to 69% positivity in 2024. So definitely an interesting trend. Not as sharp decline as Angular had from 2016 to 2019, a massive decline. But now it's got a little boat shape. Yeah, it's starting to have a boat
Angular
shape.
popped up three notches from 10 to 7. That may just be because Lit, Preact, and Alpine have gone down. I'm surprised to see Alpine. I think that is probably more of an audience thing because I think Alpine is probably at its peak. All the cool stuff Caleb is doing right now.
Totally. HTMX going down by 11% it's only surprising because I think, when you first try HTMX, there's something magical about the simplicity. I really like the way it feels to use. But then when I need to do certain things, certain client-side things, if I'm not just loading like HTML from a server, then it's like, oh, that's the limitation. I think it's great for what it does, but I'm not surprised that people initially might try it and be like, oh, this is really cool. And then they hit I actually want to do more client-side stuff.
I'll just make this a server component. I know that it's not the same thing, but I think server components are close enough to what people want. And then the ability just to hop into a client component is pretty killer. In terms of what are people actually using at work, not what do people love and what is hyped right now, but what are people getting paid to use? So tell me, what are the top 5 things that people are using at work?
React.
Number 1 at 67% of respondents using React.
React. Okay, and this is just front-end frameworks?
Yes.
People are actually using at work, front-end frameworks. React number 1. I might put Vue.js at number 2.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Nailed it. 31%.
Angular number 3.
Yeah, exactly. 28%. So it's amazing. Angular's getting bullied in all of these things, but what are people actually using to build like business stuff? Angular.
But also it's been around for a while, so hey,
Or they're trapped in an 11-year-old Angular application.
Yeah. No, number 4 is where it gets really tricky for me. Yeah. It could go a number of ways. I might even say, I might say Preact, but I don't know if that's
Preact
close.
Number 6. Number 4 is Svelte, which is exciting to see. So 11% of people are using Svelte at work in production.
Okay, 11. That sounds right. You know what? I often hear people say like, oh, I wish I could use Svelte at work, but I can't. And so that's maybe what I was basing on.
Sorry, one more question is, what is the highest paying framework out of it? So they give ranges. So tell me, what is the highest paying framework?
Angular.
Is surprisingly Lit.
Okay.
Average or 50th percentile, not average. $90,000, but the highest paying at the 90th percentile is Preact.
Yeah, so it's interesting to me. That makes sense because they're more niche. maybe lit might be used. I don't know if this is true, but they might be used more at Google. I could be
Yeah.
possible, or those types of things. And same with like Preact. Preact is one of those ones that you get into when you really need it. And
Yeah.
like, if you need it, then somebody's got some specialty there. But also, too, less respondents, right? And the less respondents there are, the higher likelihood of
Yeah. It could just be one. The cool
skewed.
thing about State of JS is they have query builders for everything.
Yeah, so cool.
if you're like, well, I think this is pretty heavy React, or
Yeah.
I think it's whatever, run the numbers, brother. You can do that.
If we get into meta frameworks, Next.js
Yeah.
usage has gone down for the first time from
Wow.
2023 to 20. It only went down 2%, but the trajectory before was pretty much going
Every
up,
year.
up, and up.
Major ups.
yeah.
It was like 10% every year, and then this year it finally went down 2%. Which ones did go up though?
Yeah, SvelteKit went down by 1% from last year.
Astro went way
Astro
up.
went way up, which is not surprising because Astro is a delight in a lot of ways, and Astro is one of the only ones doing things different enough where you're like, oh, this is interesting. But that's just usage. If we get into positivity, Next.js went from 77% in 2022 all the way down to 50 something. My mouse isn't letting me hover over it. 50 something percent in 2024. So that went down a lot in terms of positivity. Gatsby continuing to go down. What has increased in positivity? Astro. Increased in usage and in positivity is always such a great sign.
Everything else went down.
Yeah. That's such a good sign, though, in terms of like more people are using it and more people like it. Like that says a lot.
Yeah, that's true. But what is it a sign of? Literally everything else went down in positivity. Do you think that's just the industry in general is a little bit overwhelmed or burnt out, or
maybe Astro's eating them? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Yeah. Let's do Meta Frameworks pain points. 12% of respondents said Next.js issues. So you know what? It's funny is that in the other pain points, the number one was React issues. And I do wonder, how many of these issues are either, they're the same thing, this is, or because the boundaries have blurred between the two, like what is a React issue? What is a Next.js issue? Yeah.
I've been in Next.js world for like the past month or so, quite heavily moving my own site over, and I've hit like I'm a huge fan of Next.js, and I still think it's the best way to do server components, and it's a great way. But because Next has been around for so long, and they're aggressive about backwards compatibility, there's just so much in Next.js. There's so many little things that they have to support, and now there is also a turbo pack, so there's two different ways to build it locally. Like I have this issue with when I did the receipt printer with singletons. You can't use a singleton in Next.js because there's if you call a server action from the server or you call a server action from the client, they're two different bundles. They don't share between the two of them as a singleton. There's just like
edges.
lots of little edges, and I feel like I hit them all. It's not like a slight about it, but I think it's just that happens when things get so big and older. You start hitting these little edge cases, which is kind of tiring.
I do have some wonder about the hard lean into server, as much as there are benefits to it. The more I think about apps I use every day, sure, like Reddit, that's a perfect use case for server anything, right? You want all that indexed, you want all that information rendered server side, right? Reddit still is, I believe I might be using web components these days. I forget what it was because their React rebuild was so rough. But in another regard, you use something like Sentry. Sentry doesn't need server-side rendering. Why would it need that, right? It's all client-side. I don't know if they do use server-side rendering. Honestly, I have no clue. But it feels like, there was such a shift that everything needs to be rendered server-side. And now, I look at the things I use daily, and it's like, all right, I look at an app, and I say, all right, server-side. And then I look at another app. All right, this one needs to be client-side. And you get this, this interesting thing where people always feel like you got to lean really hard to one side or the other. And I think there's just very specific use cases for both. I think they're both fine. Yeah.
I think being able to switch between them is key, because like a silly example is syntax highlighting. You shouldn't have to syntax highlight in the browser when you can just syntax highlight on the server and send the HTML to the thing. Like syntax highlighters are huge. And why are you loading all this JavaScript on the client and an entire theme just to put like a little box with a console.log in there, right? That seems like a crazy amount of JavaScript to run. So that certainly should be server side, right? I think like what you're getting at here is that like a lot of people said everything has to be server by default, and the hard switch from, all right, I just built everything client side and now all of a sudden everything is server side by default, and you got to put use client and everything. That like sort of burned a lot of people because like I think it's great, the server side. It makes a lot of sense to me because
I think it's
not
great
like,
too. Yeah.
But I don't think that you need to like make a choice. It's just on a component by component basis of where should this thing be rendered.
I think you do make a choice, because if you look at something when you're starting out, the first question to me is like, what needs to be server rendered and what doesn't? And if it doesn't need to be server rendered, to me, adding server rendering is just adding unnecessary complexities to it. And
but then you just don't use it though. Like, shouldn't that just be the case?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You look at it, you start and you say, all right, does this need server-side rendering or not? That is the choice. That is the choice you have to make. But yeah, I mean, most of the things I work on could probably be either way, but it matters more to me in terms of like data loading. Like, where is the data living? How is that data being loaded? Is it, coming in as HTML from the initial call, or is it coming in as JSON from a fetch request somewhere? I mean, those are
the two different ways to go about it. I think the Next.js approach is, while people are sort of tired of it because it's server by default, I think it's an awesome way. I do think it should have been the opposite, which is client default and then opt in to server, just for the sake of making people not mad. And that's what Tanner's doing with the 10 stack start. Yeah. But it's just the ability to do either one, or like RPC call stuff on the server from the client is such a nice thing. And of course we can do that in all frameworks now.
Yeah, totally. It just does feel like, it feels like that transition burned a lot of people, and some people it burned didn't have to be burned by it because they didn't actually need it.
They didn't have those problems. Yeah,
right.
That's the other thing. You talk about all these amazing improvements, and some people were like, hey, my app was great. I didn't need any of this. I got enough stuff to do at work than have to fuss with all these changes.
Testing here, the testing tools, if you look at the testing tools, there's like 10 plus testing tools on this list. And I wonder how many of these will go away the more that people use the built-in node test runner. Now, I'm not sure. You have things like mock service worker. That probably won't go anywhere if you need it. Yeah. Puppeteer and Playwright and Cypress and Storybook, those are all certainly their own things. But like Jest, and I maybe even VTest to an extent, like Mocha, Selenium, like some of these things, it's like, do these need to exist anymore now that we have a built-in test runner? I don't know. I don't do enough testing. I'm sure there's experts who do enough testing that could answer that for me. But
yeah, well, now that Node supports TypeScript, like it's another reason not to have to fuss with that, right? You're not having to transpile your code to run it in like a different environment to make sure that it works.
Right.
So yeah, let's see, if we look at rank, number one, Jest is still number one.
Yeah, that's got to be Stockholm syndrome, or
just you don't want to. Like, the last thing you want to do is move your test runner.
No, thank you.
To over. If it's working, it's working. Don't fuss with it.
Yeah.
Real quick, we're going through build tools here. I think this is kind of interesting. Is Vite and Webpack are at par with what people are using at work. That's amazing that Vite has climbed. I wonder what it is year over year, but I think at this time, probably next year, we'll see Vite have a significant improvement over top of Webpack.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see too with the roll down stuff. Man, Vita's had such a killer trajectory all over time. Yeah.
Pain points in build tools, config, performance. Yeah, those are probably the two biggest one, right? It's slow, and I hate having to fuss with it and make it work. All right, let's talk about libraries. I'm going to ask you a guess. Can you name some of the top or most used libraries? I would almost call these like utils that people bring into their projects.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if I know anything about this section of the survey, it's always stuff like underscore. So I will say Lodash is first.
Lodash, 43%. Number one.
Is underscore second?
Underscore, no. 7% still, though. Like, that just goes to show, like, underscore has not been the move for probably 8 years now.
I know. Yeah.
And it still has quite a bit of usage.
Okay, so in that case, I will say Moment.js.
Yeah. Moment coming in at number 4, 27%.
Does Date FNS take over Moment?
Yeah, it does, thankfully. Number 2, which is funny because we're almost at a spot now where...
Well, you don't need either, yeah.
Other libraries, Day.js is number 5. I think that's one that people like to use instead of date functions. And then we'll have Temporal taking over all of that. Although I still think we're gonna have like a
layer.
util library.
Yeah. I already built my own.
Top of Temporal. There you go.
Yeah. I've already built my own of just like functions that I need, So I can't imagine that there won't be some official one. Okay, so I'm missing number 3.
Yeah.
Is that? Oh boy.
It's gonna surprise me. I don't know that. It's something you've used, and I think something that you're a fan of.
Something I've used and I'm a fan of.
It's for. I'll give you one word: validation.
Validation. Is it Zod?
Yeah. Number 3.
Yeah.
Zod that's 36% of people using Zod.
Cool.
17% using jQuery. Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, let's do backend frameworks. What do you think is number 1 here?
Express.
Yes, of course.
Number 2, I'm going to say Fastify.
Fastify is number 3. I'm surprised at that, yeah.
Number 2, I'm going to say number 4 is Hano.
5 is Hano.
Okay.
So close. So you're missing number 4 and number 2.
The number 2 framework. Man, what's the Express one that people used? I know what it is, but I can't think of the name. It's similar to Koa.
Not Koa. Koa is number 6.
Okay.
It's something that has been around, obviously not as long as Express. It is not used a whole lot in the React community, but is very popular. It's used a lot in Angular community.
Is it like Eliza?
Eliza is number 7.
That's like a Hano alternative, right? And then
Correct,
there's probably like Nitro is on there as well.
Nitro, I don't see Nitro. Nitro is way below. It's below Meteor on here. So not many people using Nitro. Do you want to...
I need it. I can't think of what number 2
So number
would be.
2, the word is kind of like next, but not next.
Is it Nest.js?
It's Nest.js. By a long shot, it's number 2. It's
wow.
The next one, Fastify, is only a third of the respondents that said Nest. And then number 4 is Strappy.
Oh, yeah. Man, I should have known that.
Yeah.
Strappy. What else is on here? Adonis.js, Happy, Meteor, Sales, Redwood. Man, every time I see the Redwood not getting any love.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
Man.
Same.
Payload 36. That's more entering the CMS.
Yeah.
We need to do a CMS episode.
I'm down for that.
All right. JavaScript runtimes. 91% of people using Node and 83% using browser. So more people. we had the same thing last year. More people are using the browser than Node? That doesn't make any sense.
How does it not make... Oh, you mean Node more than the browser?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What runtimes do you regularly use?
Right.
Maybe
Browser should be number
people?
1. 100% of people, if you're writing web stuff. I guess this is just JavaScript. Maybe people aren't writing JavaScript for the web entirely, which...
Yeah?
Yeah. Hey.
Maybe there's just Flash or... You know what was crazy? This is totally aside, but I keep thinking about it every single day. Dino has WebGL
Yes.
rendering now, or Dino has WebGPU, which means that you can render with the graphics card on the server. And there's a YouTube video, someone built a Spotify UI clone entirely on the server. So like server rendering and then just streaming the UI to the client.
It's not even HTML though, right?
No, it's not.
Yeah,
it's not.
yeah.
It's all just like WebGL rendered, which is
It's
cool.
like when Ken Wheeler built a React and then at the end of his talk revealed that the entire thing was being rendered in Canvas, even though the code was all React. You're just like,
crazy.
That rules. Hilarious enough that 98 people responded that they used no runtime, which, I don't know about that one.
I'm surprised that Cloudflare workers got a write-in, I guess. Only 30 people, but it wasn't an option. And then Bun, 16%, and Dino, 12%. So this is what I'm really interested in, is like how many people are actually using these other two runtimes, Dino and Bun. That's probably more than I would have guessed, so I'm happy about that. Oh, serverless. Where are people running it? I know we're getting a little long here, but let's do this one real quick. 28% using Lambda, 17% using Vercel, 14% using Cloudflare workers. That surprises me. I would have thought that the Vercel would be significantly higher than Cloudflare workers, but they're pretty close there.
Yeah. I don't know. Cloudflare workers, man, they're easy to use. That's what I reach for.
That's so good. Yeah, I'm trying to host my next site on Cloudflare entirely, just as to see how well you can do it, and it's going well so far.
Yeah, everything I do in Svelte Kit is pretty much, unless I want to just throw it on if I need a node, like a node app, I put it on my Coolify. But everything else I throw on Cloudflare. Or Cloudflare pages, Can
I get you to guess what other languages people use instead of, in addition to JavaScript?
Yeah, I don't know. TypeScript.
No, that's considered JavaScript, I guess.
I know. Well, it doesn't count.
Not to GitHub.
Yeah, not to GitHub, right? Yes, that's the joke. Okay, so I don't know. I know JavaScript people like to say things like Go and Rust, so those are going to be on there. Yeah,
Go number 6, 18%. Yeah. Rust number 7. So Crazy. Go and Rust, 6 and 7.
So yeah, it just goes to show you hype in on it. C#.
There's a very clear winner at number 1. Yeah, C# number 4, 20%. But there's something 39%. Come on, what are the two big languages that people use?
Oh yeah, obviously PHP. Yeah.
PHP number 2, 29. Okay. Number 1,
HTML. No. Programming languages that
AI. I think
Java.
AI.
Oh, Python.
Java number 3 and Python number 1. Yeah. So almost half of people are also using Python.
Where's Swift on this list, or is it on this list at all?
Swift number 12 at 5%. Okay. I think that's people writing JavaScript are probably not writing native apps. Like they're probably using React Native. Ooh, AI tools. What people are using: 67% ChatGPT, 48% Copilot, and then we got Claude, Gemini, Cursor. Only 11% of people using Cursor. I would have thought
good.
Cursor is very good, and the amount that people talk about it is quite amazing. So I would have thought that'd be significantly higher. That just goes to show the sometimes the bubble that we live in. Like Copilot has 5x what Cursor has. If you were to just ask me based on what people are talking about, you would think that Microsoft is shutting down. Codium is very close to Cursor too. I'm impressed with that. All right, last section we have here, which is the awards. How quickly can you guess which project will take the top spot in each category? Most adopted technology, awarded to the technology with the largest year-over-year usage and progression.
Astro.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking year over year. I would say Vite for all of these, but
I'm going to say Astro. It's Vite. How does Vite keep getting more year over year?
Every year. Maybe it's sheer. It's probably not percentage or something. It's sheer numbers of people. Yeah, that makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
30% year over year usage. Impressive.
That's my go-to.
But we did note that, wow, it's the same as Webpack now.
Yeah.
So it's his year. Highest retention, awarded to technology with the highest percentage of returning users.
Veet.
V-Test.
V-Test. All right, that's fine. Yes.
Veet number 2 at 98.
Yeah. 98%. Yeah, just barely.
Highest interest, awarded to technology developers are most interested in learning once they are aware of it.
Once they're aware of it. I don't know. I'm saying Svelte just because I like it. But the answer is probably Veet.
I'm going to say Playwright. Roll down. Wow.
V-Test and Veet. The runner stuff. That's like the biggest. That's the funniest thing. All right.
Most write-ins.
Yeah, awarded to the item with the most amount of write-ins. I'm going to say Scott Talinsky. No, I have no idea. This one I have no clue. Maybe Roll Down, because I didn't see Roll Down listed too many places on here.
I'm going to say Bun. Analog.
Yes.
Angular Meta Framework. Oh, yeah. Nitro number 2. And Valleybot. What's Valleybot?
Isn't it? Yeah, it's validation.
Validate unknown data with confidence. Valleybot is an open source library for TypeScript with bundle. Oh, okay. Similar to Zod.
Yep.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you really need this when you're using either just like a fetch API, or if you're using an AI to return JSON.
Yeah.
Because you parse that and you hope it's there, right? But
you
certainly should also, if you really want to be type safe, you should also check that the data looks like what you want.
Totally.
Most commented library. Library
JS.
received the most comments.
A React. Next.js.
I'm going to say Nest.js. Angular.
Storybook and Webpack. I'm floundering on these. Most loved library, Veet.
Veet.
Or V-Test.
It is Veet. Yeah. Beautiful. That's great. There's a couple more things we didn't go through here on resources. You can see courses and newsletters. Podcast number 1. We are now competing with the YouTubers in the podcast category. So I asked Sasha, I'm like, what's the deal with people that don't have podcasts in the podcast category? And he said, it's all content, which makes sense.
Yeah, that's all content. Next time, vote for us on video creators, then, folks. I know we're on that list, but you gotta vote for syntax on all
way
the things.
Down.
Yeah,
at the bottom.
just put in syntax for every single write-in that you can.
Oh, that's great. Cool. Well, that was really interesting to go through. Kind of gives us a good look into the JavaScript world. And as always, thanks to Sasha for putting this thing together. And anything else to add?
I got nothing, man. I want to get into sick picks and shameless plugs. I know it's been the holiday, so
yes,
probably a lot of stuff happening, huh?
Have I got one for you?
Oh, I saw your tweet about this. I knew this was coming.
So this is a heated vest, and my sister got it for me for Christmas. And you hold it down, hold on, and it will heat the entire vest, including the collar. And at first I was like, oh yeah, I've seen them before in like the Home Depot or whatever. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense if you're a trade. But man, sitting at your desk, you're a little bit chilly, or if you just run around shoveling snow or whatever, having your core nice and heated is amazing. And it's just a USB battery bank. It's a USB-A plug. So you can use it comes with a battery bank, but you can use any battery you want. I'm assuming I could just plug it into my desk here, like hardwire it. I'm worried I would just walk away.
Oh yeah,
without unplugging. And it lasts like, I don't know, 5-6 hours, something like that, on a single battery, which is significantly long. So I'm surprised at how much I like this thing. And I would say if you're cold at your desk, get one of these. It's great.
I didn't get a heated vest, but Courtney did get me like one of those back recovery things where you like strap it to your back and it has.
Oh, I've seen those. Yeah.
Yeah. And man, that thing really cooks. It gets really hot. And then that's not a negative. That's perfectly great that it gets so hot. But yeah, man, it's cool. It just charges. You wrap it around and you get cooking. I might actually use that in my office to heat up. I'm going to pick Super Mario Party Jamboree. Man, I've always played Mario Party, I've been playing it since middle school or high school or whatever. Love Mario Party, but they've always been like the more modern ones have always been kind of iffy in various ways. We'd still buy them, but they're always kind of iffy. The latest one, it feels like Nintendo 64 Mario Party in the best way. There's enough like new stuff, but our kids are just the perfect age where on New Year's, Courtney and I in the past, we would just play Mario Party. We would do a long Mario Party thing. That's what Courtney and I would do instead of going to parties or whatever. And it was always a lot of fun. And this year we were like, let's buy the new Mario Party and play Mario Party with the kids on New Year's. And we did that. And they're just like the perfect age for it. So it was a lot of fun. We've been playing it, and our kids really getting the hang of it. So
really,
yeah.
What Mario Party? Which one's that?
So Mario Party is like a board game, and you roll a dice and you go around a board, and the board has various elements that do things. And then after everyone does a turn, it does a mini game. You all do a mini game, and the winner gets a certain amount of coins. Second place and then you use those coins to buy stars, and this person with the most stars at the end wins. Yeah.
Oh, and this is on Switch?
This is on Switch, and it is so, you use the little sideways controller, so you only need like 2 sets of Joy-Cons. And yeah, our kids went nuts for it. There's motion ones where you're doing stuff, and there's platforming ones, and even Brooklyn has a great time. Landon even won. He won like 2 times ago, which is like the transformation of our kids like not being able to play the most basic video games to winning a round of Mario Party happened like overnight. It was kind of crazy.
Our kids too. A couple of years ago we bought a Wii.
Yes.
And they played it, and it was okay, but I hacked it, and I'm able to get like any game backup on it that I already own. And then I downloaded I put a NES emulator on there. Guess how big every single NES game ever is?
40 gigs?
70 megs.
Oh, I actually downloaded. Oh, maybe it's because I downloaded N64 too.
Yeah, not N64, but like every NES emulator ever, or every ROM. 70 megs, amazing. And like,
amazing.
Of course, you get like the GameCube or whatever. They're much bigger. But I put it on there, and I was like, what games do these kids even play? So we were just playing NES games. But Mario Party, is that on the Wii?
There is Mario Party for the Wii.
Yeah, I'm going to get that for them.
There's ones that was actually pretty good, because I had the Mario Party for the Wii. I think it was Mario Party
9.
Which one? Mario Party 8 was good.
Yeah.
I did Mario Party 9, not good. Mario Party 8, good. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. I will buy that on eBay.
Yes, a lot of fun.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That's good. All right. Check out the Syntax YouTube channel. We are posting videos like nothing. Or not nothing. We are posting lots of videos in the new year, so check it on out if you want to, of course, watch the podcast, but also we've got just dedicated videos coming for you, so check it out. Syntax FM on YouTube, is that what it is?
As Syntax FM on YouTube, yes it is.
Beautiful. All right. Peace.
Peace.